Hello and welcome back to another episode of Self Ruled. I am your host, Hannah Holden, and today I'm here to talk to you about your power, which is your energy. Your energy is your power. And I think sometimes that we believe that our time is our greatest resource, but I actually believe that our energy is our greatest resource because when we are full of energy, we can move mountains. But when we are not full of energy and we are stuck in loops of our thought patterns, our lifestyles, our jobs, things that just are draining us, it doesn't matter if we had all day to do something that should have taken us an hour. We don't have the energy that we would if we were being more mindful of what activities, what thought patterns, what people, what workplaces in our lives are going to be giving us energy versus taking more than they give back. So today, I have just a little energy audit for you to think about these 5 different areas of your life and consider where you may want to make some adjustments, or are there any easy changes you could make? I know sometimes if something isn't quite right and it is draining our energy, sometimes it can take some time to make some big changes in our life. But some of these are things that you can start looking at regardless of any big changes. So, really looking at where are things just taking too much and they're not giving enough back to you in return. So, let's get started. The first area is your static energy levels day to day. So, this is really how you feel every day when you wake up, how you move through your day from morning till night. And I would put in this bucket things like your daily habits. So, your sleep, your nutrition, your sunlight, exercise, how much water you're drinking, how much caffeine you're drinking, salt, vitamins, things like that. So I have been all over the board with this. There have been times in my life where I was super stressed and then I was making it worse by some of these daily habits, maybe not getting enough sleep, maybe neglecting exercise when maybe I did have some time for it, but I was just so stressed that I was neglecting it, or my nutrition was out of control. So any of these. I mentioned the caffeine because as much as I love a good cup of coffee, there have been times in my life where, depending on the job that I had, I was drinking way too much coffee, and it was affecting. I'm sure it was affecting all kinds of things, my hormones, my dopamine, all of that. But this is definitely one to look at. And even if you can't make huge sweeping changes right away, some of these are the easiest ones to change. Something like for me, just consistently drinking water and adding salt. That's a huge one. So these are huge. They can make such a big difference in giving us energy back and not just consuming things and living in a way that is just draining our battery. So that one's pretty self-explanatory, and I would encourage you to just to think about maybe the categories I mentioned, but maybe there's some others in your day-to-day that you could make some shifts to give yourself a little bit of energy back. So the next one I want to talk about is your energy from your spaces, your physical environment. I don't know about you, but I've realized over the years that I am very influenced by my environment, and it has a profound effect on my mental health, my creativity, a whole lot of things. And I don't think I was always this way, or at least I wasn't always aware of it or sensitive to it. I think when I was younger, I was definitely less organized. I think there was more chaos. My closet was a mess. My mail was everywhere. Just less organization. But I also don't think I was in a mental place to really even worry about it back then. One thing I've learned is that a lot of times when people are living in a physical space that is really messy or is cluttered, or, I think about people that are hoarding or things like that, that often they're dealing with a lot mentally, and there's a lot of things going on in their mental health. It could be that, they have depression, or maybe they're going through grief or whatever it is, right? So sometimes in those situations, it's the last thing on people's mind to look at their environment. They may just be kind of living in a mess and not even really thinking about it. But I do believe that our physical environment does have the power to improve our mental health. And I'm not saying it's the magic cure, but I think that it is more powerful than we realize because there's just a big energetic difference to a space that is airy and clean and organized versus stuff everywhere. So this is a big part of the audit to look at the spaces you've spent a lot of time in. So for me, this is my apartment. And I do notice a big difference when I've kind of let things go for a little bit and I start to see, oh, there's stuff piling up, there's mess. It doesn't feel good. But when I go ahead and just clean up and all of a sudden I just I feel more cheerful, I feel more creative, and it's almost like that clean, open space sends a signal that I'm ready for productivity or I'm ready for inspiration. So it definitely helps me to be aware of that. And if I start to let things slip a little bit, which is natural, we get busy, we let things slip a little bit, but I see a huge difference in my mental health and my creativity and what I can accomplish when my space is cleaned up. And this isn't just where you live. This is it could be your car if you spend a lot of time in your car on commute, or maybe you work from the road. Just even the self-respect of cleaning your car. I know that I'm not always perfect. I might have some stuff in there, but I don't ever let my car get filthy. And I'm not judging you if you do, but I think that it makes a big difference for me to go get my car cleaned. And I'll do it sometimes even when it's not that it's even that dirty. It's almost like I just need a boost. So I'll take my car and, go clean it out, go wash it, and that can make a big difference. I invest in quality air freshener in my car now. I never used to do that, but it's all these little things that kind of send a signal to myself like, oh, I care about my environment now. I care about how things look, how things feel, how they smell. And I didn't really used to be that so concerned, but I find myself doing more of those things. Like I got this essential oil thing that clips on my visor, and I get like new scents in the mail every month for my car, so that keeps my car smelling good. And I do these really delicious incense in my apartment, so I'm just more cognizant of the whole sensory experience of my space. So not just what I'm seeing visually with whether or not it's clean or dirty, but also for me, I'm very sensitive to smells. I'm sensitive to sounds. So I like being somewhere quiet. So all of these things can play a role, but definitely the one I'm most influenced by is visual. If there's a lot of clutter somewhere, it does affect my energy. I feel it draining me, and it's often subconscious. I read in a book somewhere, and I wish I could remember which book it was. It was probably like a feng shui book or something about tidying up, but it was this idea that if we have stuff under our bed, even though we can't see it, it's taking energy from us. I don't know if that's true or not. I find it kind of interesting. I do have stuff under my bed. It doesn't bother me. I do have a drawer that's kind of a junk drawer. It's not real bad, but it doesn't bother me, I guess, because it's kind of tucked away. But I will say that I don't leave so many hidden messes the way that I did when I was younger. I remember when I was a kid, I used to if I had to clean my room, I just shove everything in the closet. I don't live like that. I think like we can sense when stuff's just been like when we're trying to like shove something under the carpet, sweep something under the rug, right? We can feel it that we haven't cleaned properly. This can also be wallets, purses, bags. If they're cluttered, there's paperwork, things like that can make a big difference. So some of you may or may not be on this wavelength with the space. Some of you may be far more tidy than me, but it is something that to look at is how could your space potentially be draining your energy, not just the cleanliness, but are there other things in the environment, smells, noises, things like that are taking energy from you? And is there something you can do about it? The next one I would talk about is your energy around how you see yourself. I don't even remember how many tens of thousands of thoughts we think every day. And I've also heard that a lot of times we have the same thoughts repeatedly day after day. And sometimes thoughts, they just come to us. They don't really mean anything. We're just kind of receivers of all of these different types of thoughts. And some of them, they just kind of drift past us and we don't latch onto them. But I'm more talking about any thoughts that we latch onto and we really hold on to them. And so if you find yourself having negative thoughts about yourself, how you see yourself, this is going to impact your energy. what you think about, you will create. So if you're having a lot of negative thoughts about yourself, you're just going to be creating more of that in your reality. So I'd really look at, what are some of the negative thoughts that you notice you have about yourself regularly? I don't think anyone is immune to this. I think we all do it. It might not be that we have these like really cruel, nasty thoughts towards ourselves, but they might be subtle things that we just are hard on ourselves about and we don't have enough self compassion. I think I used to be more this way. I used to have negative things in my more negative things that I would think about myself. But I think now it's a little bit different for me where it can just be, I'm trying to hold myself to a certain standard. I think this is the big one for me. I'm trying to hold myself to a certain standard. And if I don't feel like I'm living up to that in a certain aspect, then I'm putting a lot of energy towards improvement. And I think this is where I'll say that I love self-improvement. I love personal development. I will say I like personal development as a title better than self-improvement, because I think self-improvement kind of almost implies that we always have to be improving. But I see it more as, I always want to be growing, right? I always want to be growing into a better version of myself. I always want to be learning. I believe growth is such a huge part of being a human. If we're here and we're not growing, what are we doing? But on the flip side, it can get kind of toxic if we're being too hard on ourselves. We never just allow ourselves to relax, to soak in life, to experience joy, because we're making everything about the fact that we need to achieve these goals and we need to develop and grow. And I've become very goal oriented. I've become very growth oriented. But even I realize that in excess, this can become toxic and it can just end up draining us and taking a lot of energy. I don't know if anyone listening has ever gone on a diet. I'm guessing probably a lot of people have. Maybe you haven't. But that's one example. You go on a diet and all of a sudden you start obsessing about every piece of food you put in your mouth. You start obsessing over your exercise. If you're like me, I went through a phase like this where I was tracking everything and I was weighing myself every day, and it was just taking so much energy from me. And I got to a point where I was like, I've had it. I've had enough. This is not serving me. It's taking more energy than it's giving. I'm not gaining energy from tracking my food. I'm not gaining energy from getting on the scale and looking at that every day. In fact, it's taking energy because I'm having an emotional reaction, positive or negative based on how I perceive I'm doing. So when I realized that, and I let it go for a while, when I realized that, I was like, I'm done. I'm done tracking. And I took my scale and I threw it in the dumpster because it was taking more energy from me and it wasn't giving me anything in return. And like I said, your energy is your greatest resource. So if you are doing certain things that are draining you, it's going to be really hard to live the kind of life that you want to live, achieve the things that matter most to you. Okay, so the next one is your energy towards what you do. So, what energy you have towards your job. Maybe you are in a career that you don't love, or maybe you're at a job that feels like a dead end job, or maybe it's just not where you wish you were. But you got to be careful because a lot of those negative thoughts, if you do have those negative thoughts, they can be taking a lot of energy from you. And this is where, like anything, it comes back to the reality is that if you don't like something, if you have negative thoughts about yourself, your job, you have really two choices, which is to change the way you're looking at it, change the thoughts that you're thinking into more positive thoughts, or change the job, or change yourself. But I think I said this in a previous episode. A lot of times it's both. We have to change the way we're looking at ourselves. We have to change the way we're looking at our circumstances. We have to see the positive. We have to embrace gratitude. And this is not toxic positivity. It's just a mental reframe. Where you put your attention, that is going to grow. Whatever you're focusing on will expand. So if you're focusing on all the things that are wrong with you, if you're focusing on all the things that are bad about your job, it's going to become really draining to you. Versus if you can try to reframe that into, well, what is good about me? What do I like when I look in the mirror? What are my wonderful qualities? What is great about this job? What are the benefits of me being in this job right now? What is this doing for me? So you could start to ask those positive questions so that you can change the energy around how you're seeing yourself, and you can change the energy around how you're seeing your current job. And you may want to consider making changes so that you can be living more in alignment with daily tasks, a daily job, daily career that gives you more energy than it's taking. Because at the end of the day, if you are in a career that is taking every last drop of energy from you, you're not going to have any energy left for yourself, and you're not going to have energy for the other things in your life that are important to you, the people that are important to you. And then the final one is to take a look at your energy after spending time with certain people. This one's so interesting to me because I will notice this there are certain people that when I spend time around them, I feel drained, I feel exhausted, I might even feel frustrated, versus other people where I could just go and sit and talk with them for hours and I leave feeling more energized than when I showed up because it was just so life-giving to be around those people. So this is really important to do that audit and look at what's the deal with your relationships? Who are the people that are really giving you back the energy that you're giving them? I find personally that I feel pretty drained around people where if I feel like I have to explain myself too much, there are those people in our lives that just don't want to understand us, or they kind of seem determined to misunderstand us. I don't have many of these, but I've encountered these types of people over the years and I distance myself. And I think people that you feel like less of yourself around, this is a big one because it's so interesting how this happens, but it's some part of us must be shutting down around certain people because it's just we don't feel accepted being our true self around those people, or we just don't see a point, or we don't feel comfortable, or maybe that person just doesn't deserve our energy in that way. But this can be very subconscious, but I love being around people where I notice that I feel like I'm more of myself. Um, and I think this is also people that you can't get what you need from. If there's something you need from people in your life and you just feel like you can never get it from them, maybe it's respect, maybe it's, they don't listen. I've had people in my life, they're bad listeners, you show up to go spend time with them and you can't, what are you getting from that relationship, from that connection if they're not willing to listen? You're doing all the listening. Or, whatever it may be, there's something you want from that connection that you're not getting and you're the one giving and pouring all your energy. I have gotten in those situations where I'm just not getting back that same energy. And so those people just aren't in alignment. Instead, you want to focus on those people that are more like the superchargers, not the super drainers. I think we've all come across some people, or maybe we have a friend or, family member that's a super drainer. And those are those people that they just suck the life out of you, and it's you leave and you're just depleted. So you want to focus on those superchargers, the people that you spend time around them and they're positive and they speak power into your life. I was thinking about this the other day. Just people I've encountered in my life who have spoken so positively to me and also spoken such beautiful words over my life. And those are the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with. And, these are opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm calling them superchargers or super drainers. They're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. And then there's everyone else in the middle. But kind of coming back to the theme of this podcast, which is, building self-belief so that you can go after your purpose in life. If that's you, you are going to need superchargers in your life. And you might not be spending tons of time with these people all the time, but you need to have people around you that are belief builders, not people that are going to make you feel worse about your life or yourself or what you're trying to do. And I was thinking about this for this episode. There have been people in my life who have just spoken such wonderful things over my future. And I'll never forget that because those people saw things for me before I even saw them in myself. And those are the type of people that you want to keep close because they are going to give energy and life back to you. So at the end of the day, my hope with this episode was just to get you thinking about where you're spending your energy in these different areas. Where are you giving away your energy and just not getting anything in return? Because I truly feel like one of the most important things we can do, aside from building self-belief, which I think is one of our biggest jobs in life if we have big goals, the other job we have is to maintain optimal energy levels. And so that means that we need to be mindful about where our energy is going and is it worth it? Where is our energy going and is it worth it? Because once you do this audit, once you look at these different areas of your life, you have to be able to look at yourself and say, well, what changes can I make to have more energy every day? What needs to change? What needs to stay the same? What needs to go? Who needs to go? Because I think at the end of the day, if you can have optimal energy levels, you are going to be in a great mood. You're going to be positive. You're going to be optimistic. You're going to be more intelligent, more creative. You're going to be a better problem solver. You're going to be more resilient. You're going to be able to accomplish things in much shorter periods of time because you have the energy that you need. So this one's really important. It sounds so easy. It sounds so simple. But this is really important because there's a lot of things in our world that can just be taking our energy. And I didn't even go into things like time on cell phones, screens, some of the vices that can be taking our energy. But if you want to accomplish big goals, if you want to change your life, if you want to go through a personal transformation, you will have to get savvy about your energy and give it a hard look and just do an audit. What needs to go? What needs to change? All right. Thanks for joining me this week, and I'll see you next time.